The Saints Row reboot has been a disaster so far. Leading up to the launch, we saw the individuals running the social media accounts go online and attack consumers simply for criticizing what we saw in the trailers. The developers told us haters are gonna hate and we're proud of what we created, and that's all that matters, but the launch hasn't gone well for them. This game is broken and fans are very underwhelmed with the product they gave us, and hilariously, the game has already seen an 80% drop in sales compared to last week. I have a bunch of things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So this is an article from gamesindustry.biz, and it says The Last of Us Part 1 leads wave of new releases. Now this isn't very surprising because The Last of Us Part 1, of course, was pretty hyped up from the game's media, and there were a lot of people who did enjoy this game when it initially launched 9 years ago. If I hadn't purchased remasters of this, and also if The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't such a big letdown, I might have even purchased this Part 1 remake, but I didn't. A lot of other people didn't, though it's still selling pretty well. It says The Last of Us is once again the #1 best-selling game at UK retail, thanks to the launch of this year's Part 1 remake for PlayStation 5. Announced earlier this year, the game is a complete rebuild of the 2013 PlayStation 3 hit, with updated contents and mechanics, additional content, and expanded accessibility options. I just didn't see a $70 game in this content. I looked at it, I went, is this really worth it? And I decided to put my credit card away. I had no interest in supporting this. But it says it sold around half the number of copies that Saints Row managed when it debuted at #1 last week, which isn't very surprising to hear, because again, this isn't a brand new Last of Us game, it's just a remake of a title that's already had remasters, and there was a bit of social media backlash surrounding this title as well. I did actually cover this whole situation yesterday in a video where people are receiving their $100 Firefly editions of The Last of Us Part 1 remake, and they're broken, they are just ruined, and Sony is refusing to replace or refund them. That video that I did will be linked down below, but it says, that said, it's worth noting Volition's Reboot launched on a Tuesday, while The Last of Us took a more traditional Friday slot, and as always, these are only accounting for physical sales. But here is the bad news for Volition, because Saints Row saw an 80% drop in sales compared to last week and falls to #6. It's not like it fell to #2 or #3. I mean, it went down to 6, which is just terrible. Yes, of course, games and products are always going to see drops in sales as weeks continue, but we're only talking about week 2 here. You would think that this would be at a #2, maybe a #3 slot, but it's at a #6, and it saw an 80% drop in sales, which is just terrible for them. Honestly, it's not that surprising to hear that this game dropped like a rock. People are furious over it. It's not like it launched in a perfect state and people just didn't like the story, didn't like the characters. People don't like the story and the characters, and it is also buggy and broken. It is being compared to Cyberpunk 2077, which was just an awful launch, and there haven't really been any major patches for this game yet. A lot of people are saying, I'm gonna wait to purchase it until they fix those problems, and there are even some people who said, I tried to play it and I couldn't. I actually returned it. I couldn't deal with this game, which is just hilarious, because they said that they were proud of this, and they even took 6 more months to, I don't know, I guess just try to patch up the game. They said it was for polish. Clearly this game needs more than polishing, so I guess just patch it up and release it in the best state that they could have. Maybe they were under crunch, maybe they were told you have to get it out on this day, you don't have a choice, which would be a shame for the developers, and we ultimately have to blame the higher ups at the company for that. But there were still developers going on social media basically saying you're ists if you don't like this game, you're a terrible person if you don't like this game, and you know what, just don't purchase it because we don't like you. And while there aren't any specific numbers here, let's look at other games that have released that have done amazing at launch that have not dropped like this. Let's look at something like Elden Ring. From Software's latest dark fantasy epic, Elden Ring released on February 25th to near universal acclaim. The reviews were pretty much 10s across the board, and then it shows on the UK sales that for February, the whole month that it launched, even though it released only a couple of days before the end of the month, it hit #1 for sales. Let's also look at something like Battlefield 2042, a game that lost 90% of its players in a month and was raked across the coals by consumers for being broken. It was one of the best-selling games the month it released, even though it had to compete with Call of Duty. This says Vanguard debuted as November's best-selling game, instantly becoming the second best-selling game of 2021 to date. This is the 14th consecutive year a Call of Duty game has ranked as the best-selling games of its release month. And then Battlefield 2042 launched as the #2 best-selling game of November, ranking it as the 6th best-selling game of the year to date. Battlefield 2042 was the second best-selling game of November on both PlayStation and Xbox platforms. But besides the sales dropping 80%, the user scores have also been dropping pretty steadily. If we go on over to Metacritic, right now the Xbox One version of the game is at a 1.5 user score, and then if we go over to the PlayStation 4 version, it's at a 2.2, and the others are sitting between like 2.3s and 2.6s. I haven't seen one that is higher than that, but people are just very unimpressed with this title. It's not like it's getting 5s or 6s. I mean, it's staying under a 3. People are just very sad with this game, and I know I was sad when they announced that it was going in this new direction and they were toning down some of the humor and it was supposed to be for modern audiences, because I've loved Saints Row in the past, but this is just not a game that I could come to support. A 0, 0, 0, 0. I mean, how many zeros are there? There are obviously a lot of 10s within these bad scores as well, from people trying to counter the negative reviews, because they're literally just 10s that say, it's a lot of fun, don't listen to people who are angry. It's not actually anyone leaving 10s with solid reviews, but their 10s are not helping, clearly. The game is a buggy mess. The graphics look very bad, the story is very bad, and the ending is very bad. The characters are generic and cringe, not a good experience. Volition, where do we begin? You ignored fan feedback for years telling you all exactly what we wanted. Then you dissed the fans on Twitter calling us haters for not liking whatever this was. Haters gonna hate. Now the game is a buggy, glitchy, unplayable mess that appeals to no one, and you all have yourselves to blame. Haters are gonna hate, right? Well, haters are gonna rate too. That is a pretty freaking good saying. Haters gonna hate? Well, haters are gonna rate. Another 0. The developers have publicly stated Saints Row 4 was a mistake, and they are going to fix that mistake by making the most hyper-woke Gen Z game possible. The game is a soulless, pure cringe, unplayable mess. There are no kind words in here. 0. Saints Row died at Saints Row 3. We were getting closer and closer to this type of game with each installation. Poor writing, buggy mess, don't buy the game. I made the mistake of pre-ordering it. Never again. Rest in peace, Saints Row. And I feel the same exact way at this point. I feel like Saints Row is kind of dead. I don't see Volition changing their ways in the future. I don't see them going in the opposite direction. At this point, they have definitely committed to going woke, and unfortunately for them, it seems like they're going broke too, because their sales are dropping, user reviews are awful, everyone is still laughing at this game on social media, and I think that it's safe to say that this title is a fail for them. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.